She was born in pain, raised in silence, and they pushed her to a man they thought would ruin her, but they didn't know she was walking into the arms of a billionaire. Betrayed, broken, but destined for greatness. But what they meant for punishment became the beginning of her destiny. Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with AfriTales 38. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Please relax and enjoy as we dive in the story. From ashes to diamonds. The girl by the stream. Marian was only 6 when her mother died. One morning, her mother lay still on the bamboo mat, her lips parted as though she wanted to say something, but never did. Marian waited for her to wake up. She waited all day. But death had already whispered its secrets into her ears. Everything changed after that. Her father, once a cheerful man with careless farmer hands and a laugh that filled their small hut, began to shrink into a shell of himself. He started drinking. Palm wine, ogogoro, anything. He would stagger into their compound at night, his voice loud and angry, his steps unsure. The man who once carried Marian on his shoulders now could barely look at her. Then came Mama Ada, the new wife. Everyone in the village said she was beautiful. Maybe she was. But Marian quickly learned that beauty could be dangerous. Mama Ada didn't like her. In fact, it felt like she hated her from the moment she walked through the door with her basket of clothes and sharp eyes. "You, Marian," her voice would ring out before the cock crowed. "Sweep the entire compound. Fetch water from the stream. Wash my wrappers. And don't forget to feed the goats." Marian never complained. She simply did as told. But the more obedient she was, the worse it got. If she dropped a plate, she got a slap. If she didn't smile fast enough, she got a pinch. If she even looked happy, Mama Ada would find a reason to send her to the stream again, and again, and again, until her legs shook and her lips cracked from thirst. The only time Marian ever smiled was when she was alone by the stream, her feet in the water, singing softly to herself. But even that joy was about to be taken from her. One hot afternoon, while Marian was pounding yam in the backyard, her stepmother called her sharply. "Marian, you're going to James' house. He said he needs someone to wash his car and sweep the yard." Marian paused. She had heard of James. Every girl in the village had. He was the son of a very rich man who recently returned from the city. Some said he was into dirty money. Some said he was a ritualist. Others said he was just a vulcanizer, a spoiled rich boy who jumped from one girl to another like flies on mangoes. Marian looked at her stepmother. But I don't know him." "Shut up. Go there. You think I care?" Mama Ada hissed. "Let him use you. Maybe he'll beat sense into your useless head. I don't care if you don't return." Marian swallowed her tears and left, walking with her head low, her legs dusty and trembling. James lived in a house that looked like it didn't belong in the village. It had tall gates, a clean compound, and a car that sparkled even under the dusty sun. Music blared from inside. When she knocked on the gate, a shirtless guy with tattoos opened it. "Who you be?" I'm Marian. Mama Ada sent me to help James sweep." He laughed and called inside. "Omo, James. See one fresh village girl with them send come." Another guy appeared, this time taller, with sunglasses and a bottle in hand. He looked at Marian from head to toe like she was some ragged item on display. Then James came out. He was nothing like she expected. Yes, he had the city swag, fitted jeans, expensive sneakers, gold chain. But his eyes, they held something deeper. Curiosity. Boredom. And then surprise when he saw Marian. "You? What's your name?" he asked. "Marian, sir." "Why did they send you here?" She looked down. "They said you need someone to sweep." James smirked. "Sweep? With your skinny hands? Are they trying to punish you or me?" The others laughed. But James kept looking at her. "Come in. Let's see what you can do." From that day, Marian's life began to shift, slowly, like rain soaking dry land. She came every morning, sweeping and cleaning. She spoke only when spoken to. James watched her silently, sometimes even offering her leftover food, which she shyly accepted. One evening, as she finished her chores, James called out, "Sit." Marian froze. "Sir." I said, "Sit down. You've been working since morning." "I'm not a slave master." She hesitated, then sat on the edge of a chair. James poured her a cold drink. "You're not like the girls I know." "I'm sorry if I offended you," she said quickly. "No," he chuckled. "That's not what I mean. You're real." "What's your story?" That night, Marian told him about her mother, her father's drinking, her stepmother's cruelty, rumors and roses. The village of Umeby was small, but its people had loud mouths. It didn't take long for the whispers to begin. "Have you seen Marian lately? She now walks like a city girl. I heard she sweeps James' compound every morning." "What is she really sweeping, eh?" Some said she had sold her body to James. Others said James was just using her, like he did every other girl, and would soon dump her like trash. But Marian didn't care. Or at least, she pretended not to. She still woke up at dawn, swept the compound, polished James' car, and did all her duties. She didn't talk much. She didn't wear flashy clothes. She was still the same Marian, humble, quiet, and hardworking. But something inside her had changed. James had started giving her things. A new wrapper to replace her torn one. A pair of simple sandals when her slippers broke. Even a small tin of milk to take home for her father, he said. Though they both knew her father would never taste it. At first, Marian wanted to return them. But James waved her off. "You've earned more than this," he said. "Let someone in your life treat you well for once." She thanked him with teary eyes. One day, while Marian was washing his car, James came out holding something behind his back. "Close your eyes," he said. She hesitated, shy. "Why?" "Just do it." She closed her eyes. When she opened them, he was holding a small bouquet of red and white roses, fresh, delicate, and glowing in the sun. "For you," he said. Marian gasped. "For me?" "Who else?" he smiled. It was the first time in her life anyone had given her flowers. The roses weren't just petals and stems. They were a promise. A feeling she couldn't explain. A hope that maybe, just maybe, her life was beginning to change. But not everyone was happy. Especially not the village girls who had once thrown themselves at James and failed. One of them, Ngozi, couldn't hide her bitterness. She had worn tight clothes, practiced city slangs, even faked an accent, but James never looked her way. "See this dirty girl, oh," she hissed one day to her group. "So James likes rag now? She must be using jazz," another added. The jealousy brewed like hot oil. One afternoon, Ngozi and her gang cornered Marian on her way back from James' house. "Marian," Ngozi called out, hands on her waist. "So you now think you're better than us, ABI?" Marian clutched her basket and stood still. "I didn't say anything to anyone," she said quietly. Ngozi walked closer, her eyes burning with envy. "Answer me. What do you give James that we don't have?" "I don't give him anything," Marian replied. "I just work and go." "Liar." Ngozi spat. "You think he loves you? You think a billionaire like him will ever marry a village girl like you?" Marian blinked. Her hands trembled. But she refused to cry in front of them. "I didn't come here to fight," she said and walked away. But the words stabbed her. Could James really love someone like her? That evening, James noticed her mood. "You didn't even smile today," he said as she watered the flowers. "I'm just tired," she lied. "No, something happened. Talk to me." She shook her head. But the tears betrayed her. James walked over, wiped her cheek, and said softly, don't let small minds break your big spirit. She looked at him. Do you really mean it? She asked. Marianne, he said, looking into her eyes, I've met girls with makeup and perfume, girls who speak big grammar and wear Brazilian hair. But none of them has your heart. You're real. You're gold. Marianne smiled faintly. For the first time, she believed she could be loved, not for her body, not for her labor, but for her soul. But far away, Mama Ada was watching. When she heard the rumors that Marianne now wore perfume and returned home with soap and milk, her jealousy turned into poison. She thinks she's smart, Mama Ada muttered. Let me remind her where she came from. She began treating Marianne worse than before. She poured her drinking water away. She mixed palm oil in her bathing water. She even cut her wrapper with a blade while pretending to dry clothes. Marianne endured it all in silence. But deep inside her, a new fire was growing. She had seen what kindness looked like. She had tasted the sweetness of respect. And she knew now, her life wouldn't end in suffering. Not if James kept seeing her the way no one else ever did. The awakening. James stood in front of his father's mansion, looking out at the village road, lost in thought. He had always lived like he didn't care, driving fast cars, hosting loud parties, flirting without commitment. But ever since Marianne started showing up, something had shifted inside him. He found himself waiting to hear her knock at the gate. Waiting to see her small, dusty feet walk through the compound. Waiting to hear her gentle voice say, "Good morning, sir." James had met many girls, city girls who wore makeup like armor, who came with sweet words and forced laughter. But Marianne was different. She was quiet but strong. Shy, but honest. And her story had touched something inside him, a place he didn't know was still alive. That morning, as she swept the tiles in front of the sitting room, James called her in. "Come," he said, pointing to the couch. "Sit with me." Marianne hesitated, then slowly sat down, hands folded on her lap. "I want to ask you something," James said. She looked at him, unsure. "What do you want in life?" Marianne blinked. No one had ever asked her that. "I don't know," she whispered. "I just want peace." James nodded. "Peace, and what else?" She was quiet for a while, then said, "I want to go to school. I want to become a teacher. I want to help girls like me, girls that people think are nothing." James leaned back, impressed. "You're stronger than you think." Marianne blushed. "From now on," he said, "you will never lack books, clothes, or food again. If you want school, I'll make it happen." She looked up, shocked. Why are you doing this?" James smiled. "Because when I look at you, I see someone I want in my life. I don't know what this feeling is yet, but it's real." Marianne didn't say anything. But in her heart, something woke up, a dream she had buried long ago. Hope. That week, James bought her school books, a new bag, and a pair of flat black shoes. He even gave her a small phone, so she could reach him if needed. The news spread like wildfire. NBA knew. James bought her phone. She's even using roll-on now. Is she doing charm or what? Marianne tried to ignore it, but the rumors followed her everywhere. In the market. At the stream. Even in the church. But the worst was at home. Mama Ada was boiling with hatred. One night, she poured kerosene in Marianne's bathing water and left it out without warning. Marianne screamed as her skin burned slightly, and ran out in pain. Her father, half drunk, barely looked up. "You this girl," Mama Ada shouted, always crying for attention. "Do I look like your mother?" Marianne bit her lip to stop herself from shouting back. She was tired of the insults, tired of being treated like trash. But she knew she had to endure. Just a little longer. Meanwhile, James' friends were noticing too. One of them, Ken, asked him while sipping a drink, "Guy, you dey fall for that girl for real?" James nodded slowly. "Yes." Ken laughed. "But she's just a village girl." James dropped his glass. "Exactly. She's not fake like the rest. Are you planning to marry her? James looked at him and said with a calm smile, maybe I will. Ken nearly choked. Wait, you, James, billionaire son, wants to marry a girl who wears rubber slippers. James shrugged. She gives me peace. Can your babe say the same? That night, James sent a message to Marian. I know the world laughs at you. But I see you. I see your light. Don't let them dim it. Sleep well, my diamond. Marian cried reading it. Not out of sadness. But because for the first time in her life, someone saw her, really saw her, and called her diamond. Not trash. Not useless. Diamond. But not everyone was ready to let her shine. One morning, Mama Ada stormed into the compound, dragging Marian by the arm. James had just finished his morning jog. She will no longer work here. Mama Ada shouted. She's my husband's daughter, not your slave. James raised an eyebrow. Why are you shouting like this? Because she's bringing shame to my family. All of you in this village are laughing at me. Saying my stepdaughter is now your princess. I won't take it. James sighed. Marian is not a slave. She's my friend. If anyone is ashamed, it should be you. Mama Ada's eyes widened. Are you insulting me? No, he said calmly. I'm just telling the truth. If you don't want her to walk, fine. But don't stop her from becoming what she was born to be. He turned to Marian. You don't have to come again. You can stay home and rest. I'll send for you. Mama Ada smirked, thinking she had won. But she didn't know the fire she had just lit. Because from that day, James made it official. He enrolled Marian into a special program for girls in the city. Paid in full. And behind the scenes, he had already bought a ring. Betrayal and test. It was a quiet morning in Yumabille when the storm came. Marian, now dressed in a clean gown James had sent to her, walked through the village with her head slightly higher than usual. Her new school bag swung from her back, and her heart was light. For once in her life, she felt like she belonged, like she mattered. But envy is a silent enemy. And Mama Ada had made up her mind. If she couldn't control Marian anymore, she would destroy her. Later that day, James received a frantic knock on his gate. His security guard opened the gate to find Mama Ada, crying and holding a torn nylon bag. She has finally done it, she shouted. Marian has shown her true color. James came out of the house, confused. What's going on? Mama Ada threw the bag at his feet. Inside were a few personal items, 2 of James' expensive wristwatches, a silver chain, and a bundle of cash. All from his room. She stole from you. Mama Ada wailed. I saw it with my own eyes. That useless girl wants to ruin you. James bent down, picked up the items, and frowned. The truth. He hadn't even noticed they were missing. But the way the items were carefully wrapped, too clean. Too staged. Still, the crowd that had begun to gather didn't need facts. They needed a show. Thief, someone shouted. I always knew she was pretending, another added. James looked at Mama Ada. Where is Marian? She ran away, she cried. When I asked her where she got the items, she ran toward the stream. James's heart sank. Marian was not at the stream. She wasn't anywhere in the village. She had heard the shouting from a distance and knew immediately, it was over. All the good things she had tasted now felt like a cruel dream. She had tried to rise. And now she had been crushed. Not by strangers. But by family. By evening, the village square was buzzing. Some said James had been scammed. Others said Marian had bewitched him. Ngozi, as usual, was dancing in excitement. She would never return. I told you she was a snake. But James was silent. Too silent. He went inside, closed the door, and refused to speak to anyone, even his friends. He just sat alone, staring at the wrapped evidence. Then he did something unexpected. He called the police. And then he called his personal investigator from the city. Within 2 days, James had uncovered everything. The wristwatches hadn't been taken from his drawer, they had been moved from a box in his guest room. The cash had fingerprints, but not Marianne's. And most importantly, a neighbor's child confessed she had seen Mama Ada sneaking into James' compound 2 nights earlier with a nylon bag. James was furious. Not at Marianne, but at himself. He had let her walk away broken, without hearing her side. That Sunday, James did something no one expected. He walked into the village church with a microphone. The entire village fell silent. 2 days ago, he began, a lie spread like fire. That Marianne stole from me. People murmured. But here is the truth, she didn't. Gasps. I have proof. And the real thief is standing here, Mama Ada. The crowd turned to look at her. Her face twisted. It's a lie, she screamed. He's protecting her. But James wasn't done. I also want to tell this village one more thing. Marianne is not just a girl I helped. She's the girl I want to marry. The church exploded in noise. Marianne. But she's just... Silence. James shouted. I don't care where she came from. She's honest, strong, and worth more than any gold. He dropped the microphone and walked out. But Marianne was still missing. James sent search parties. He searched the stream, the forest path, even old huts where beggars used to sleep. Until finally, on the 3rd day, he found her. She was lying under a tree beside the old stream, her face pale, her lips dry, and her back clutched tightly to her chest. She hadn't eaten. She hadn't spoken to anyone. James rushed to her, knelt beside her, and whispered, Marianne, it's me. Her eyes opened slowly. She was too weak to speak. I'm sorry, he whispered, tears rolling down his face. I didn't protect you. But I will. From now on, I will. She cried in silence. He lifted her in his arms and took her straight to the city hospital. The truth revealed. The hospital in the city was like nothing Marianne had ever seen. Bright white walls. Gentle nurses. Machines that beeped softly. Clean bed sheets. The smell of medicine, not palm oil or burning firewood. James stayed by her side the entire night. He held her hand when she had fever. He fed her when she was too weak to chew. He told the nurses, if she even coughs, call me. For the first time in her life, Marianne felt safe. She was no longer the girl who cried in the bush or slept on the floor beside her stepmother's room. Now, she was in a world where people cared if she lived or died. As she got stronger, James brought her flowers every morning. He would sit beside her bed and talk about the future. I want to take you to the best school, he said one day. You deserve it. Marianne smiled faintly. I never even finished secondary school. We'll start from there, he said. And finish at the top. She looked at him with wonder. Why are you doing this? You could have any girl. James leaned forward. That's where you're wrong. I don't want just any girl. I want a woman who knows pain but still chooses kindness. A woman who doesn't fake her smile. That woman is you. Marianne looked away shyly. But people will laugh. They'll say I used charm to catch you. Let them talk, James said. The truth always wins. Back in the village, Mama Ada's lies were collapsing. James had sent copies of the investigator's report to the village council. The boy who saw her sneaking into his house had also spoken again, this time to elders. The council summoned her publicly. Before the crowd, she trembled. At first, she denied everything. Then she blamed Marianne again. But the evidence was too strong. One elder stepped forward. You have lied against an innocent girl. You nearly destroyed her life. The people hissed. Some shouted, she should be banished. But James, through a letter read to the council, said, "Let her live with her shame. That is her punishment. I only ask that she never speak Marian's name again." Mama Ada was disgraced. Even her own relatives began to avoid her. Meanwhile, Marian was healing, body and soul. Each day in the hospital, she felt a piece of her old self fall away. The fear, the shame, the low self-worth. In its place grew something new. Strength, confidence, light. After 2 weeks, she stood by the window of her hospital room, watching the city cars pass. James came in with a small box. "What's that?" she asked. He knelt down and opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, silver, and elegant. Marian gasped. "I'm not proposing yet," James smiled. "This is a promise ring. A promise that I'll wait for you. That we'll build this life together. But only when you're ready." Marian's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." He stood, held her face, and said, "Just say yes to becoming the woman you were always meant to be." She nodded. Yes. 3 months later, Marian began her adult education classes. She wore a uniform, carried books, and walked proudly into class every morning. At first, she was shy. Some students whispered. Some even mocked her age. But she didn't stop. James visited often, sometimes sitting outside her classroom with drinks and snacks. When asked who he was, she smiled and said, "My friend." Because that's what he truly was. A friend. A protector. A miracle. One afternoon, after her class, James took her to a quiet restaurant. "I want to take you somewhere," he said. They drove for a while, then stopped in front of a beautiful compound. Green garden. Tall trees. A fountain in the center. Marian looked around. "Whose house is this?" James smiled. "Yours." She blinked. "What?" "I bought it for you. So you never have to live with people who don't value you. This is your space. Your freedom." Marian burst into tears. No one had ever given her a room of her own, now she had a house. "James. I don't deserve this." "Yes, you do," he said softly. "You deserve everything good. And more." News reached the village like lightning. Marian owns a house in the city. She's schooling. She now speaks English like radio presenters. Her father, sober now after months without alcohol, walked through the village with a cane and bent shoulders. People stared at him, expecting him to boast. But he didn't. He only said one thing. "I had a diamond in my house and I didn't see it." A diamond rise. Marian stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair gently. She was wearing a soft blue gown, simple but elegant. Her shoes were black, polished, and comfortable. Around her neck sat a small gold necklace James had gifted her with the letter M dangling at the center. She barely recognized the girl staring back at her. This was no longer the barefoot girl who swept compounds in fear. This was a woman, educated, confident, and graceful. A diamond that had been buried in mud but now gleamed under the sun. That morning, she stepped out of her new house, books in hand, and walked to school like every other student in the neighborhood. But something different happened that day. 2 girls, ones who used to mock her accent and call her village tomato, approached her. "Hi, Marian," one of them said, shyly. "You looked really good during the class presentation yesterday. We wanted to say, you inspire us." Marian smiled. It was the first time her success had caused admiration instead of envy. She walked into class that morning with her chin slightly higher, not in pride, but in quiet confidence. James, watching from afar in his car, nodded proudly. She was becoming everything he knew she could be, and more. Meanwhile, in the village, the tale of Marian had become legend. Children repeated her name when they played pretend games. "Let me be Marian," one girl would shout. "I'm going to the city to meet my James." Her story had become hope for many, proof that poverty was not a life sentence, and that kindness could lead to greatness. Even elders began using her name as a lesson. If Marian can make it, why can't you? They would ask their lazy sons. Mama Ada, now a shadow of her proud self, was often seen sitting alone under the mango tree, staring blankly at the road. Her own children had grown to resent her. They knew, deep down, that her wickedness had pushed away the one soul who could have helped them. Marian didn't return to the village for months, not because she hated it, but because healing takes time. But the day finally came. James decided it was time to visit Yumabille with her. They arrived in a quiet black SUV. No music. No noise. Just peace. Marian stepped out, wearing a beautiful wrapper blouse with coral beads around her neck. Her hair was braided neatly, her skin glowing from city care. The villagers gasped. Some dropped their baskets. Is that Marian? Chai. God is wonderful. Mama Ada stood frozen at the entrance of her compound, mouth slightly open. James walked ahead, held Marian's hand, and guided her to the village square where the elders sat. He greeted them with respect, then spoke. I bring greetings from the city. And I come with a message of gratitude. Thank you for raising a girl as strong as Marian. She's now my partner. My peace. And by God's grace, soon, my wife. The crowd burst into joyful screams. Elders clapped. Children danced. Even the wind seemed to hum in celebration. Later that day, Marian visited her old compound. She stood in the same backyard where she once fetched water, where her skin had once burned from Mama Ada's traps. Now, she stood taller, free. Her father came out slowly, leaning on his cane. His eyes were full of shame and longing. Marian, he said in a low, cracked voice. My child. I wronged you. I failed you. I let pain grow where love should have lived. Marian stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I forgive you, Papa. And just like that, the years of silence between them melted like morning dew. They hugged, father and daughter, surrounded by the wind, the trees, and the whispering spirits of her late mother. That night, a quiet dinner was held in Marian's honor. James gave a short speech. I came to this village lost in pride. I thought money made a man. But this woman, he said, pointing to Marian, showed me what true wealth looks like. Her heart changed mine. Marian looked at him, her heart full. She had no riches growing up. No support. No luxury. But now she had something greater. Love. Respect. Peace. As the night ended, Marian stood beneath the moonlight, looking at the stars. James came beside her. Are you ready for the final step? He asked. She nodded slowly. Yes. He pulled out a velvet box and opened it. This time, it was not a promise ring. It was an engagement ring, sparkling, full of light. He knelt before her. Marian, will you marry me? Her eyes filled with tears. She smiled. Yes. And the crowd that had gathered behind them shouted with joy. A girl once forgotten had become the bride-to-be of a man the world respected. From suffering to celebration. From ashes to diamonds. From pain to palace. The wedding was set for a calm Saturday morning. No loud music. No crowded hall. Just close friends, elders, and a few respected village women who had watched Marian grow from barefoot to brilliant. The venue was peaceful, James City Garden, surrounded by white roses, fairy lights, and the soft hum of a violinist. A calm breeze danced through the trees, as if heaven itself had come to witness the moment. Marian stood in front of a large mirror inside a quiet room. Her gown was cream white, soft lace brushing her ankles. A thin veil flowed down her shoulders like water. Her makeup was light, just enough to highlight the glow that now lived within her. She turned around slowly and saw her father standing by the door in a clean agbada, his eyes red. Papa, she whispered. He stepped forward slowly, tears falling. I never thought I'd live to see this day, he said, voice shaking. I thought I buried you with your mother, but you rose, my daughter. You rose like the morning sun. Marianne hugged him tightly. I still remember when you used to carry me on your back after farm work, she said softly. Even when your hands were tired, you never dropped me. I miss that man, Papa. I lost myself after she died, he whispered. I lost you too. But you kept standing. And today, you made me a father again. They cried together, father and daughter, not in pain, but in healing. Meanwhile, outside in the garden, James adjusted his suit and looked out over the crowd. Ken, his friend, came beside him and whispered, "You really did it." James smiled. No. She did it. She made me believe again. She turned my mansion into a home. Then the music changed. Heads turned. And Marianne stepped into the garden, hand in hand with her father. The crowd gasped softly. Even the birds seemed to pause. She wasn't just beautiful. She was glowing. Whole. Restored. Loved. James walked to meet her halfway. When he reached her, he whispered, "You look like my dream come true." She replied, "And you look like my answered prayer." They stood together at the altar. The officiant smiled and began. Today, we witness not just a wedding, but a testimony of what love, grace, and perseverance can do. Marianne and James, do you have any words for each other? James turned to Marianne. His voice trembled slightly. When I met you, I didn't know what I needed. I had money, fame, friends. But I was empty. Then you came, with your quiet strength, your gentle smile, and your story, and you taught me how to live. You taught me how to love. The crowd sniffled. James reached for her hand. I don't just want to marry you. I want to protect the little girl you used to be. I want to cheer for the woman you've become. And I want to father the children we will raise together, with joy, respect, and peace. Marianne wiped a tear. Then she spoke. In my lowest moments, I thought I was invisible. I thought I would die in that village, unknown and unloved. But then you saw me. You didn't see dirt. You didn't see shame. You saw gold beneath the dust. And you gave me space to shine. She turned to face him fully. James, I don't just love you because you rescued me. I love you because you reminded me to rescue myself. You are my light, my laughter, my new beginning. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Even the elders whispered prayers. After the vows were exchanged, James gently lifted her veil and kissed her forehead before her lips. A symbol of respect. Of deep, sacred love. The crowd erupted in applause. Later, at the reception, Marianne surprised everyone by standing up to give a speech. She stood before the microphone, calm and graceful. There was a time I thought this day would never come, she began. There was a time I believed that suffering was my portion in life. She paused and looked around. To the young girl sweeping someone's compound today, don't give up. To the boy whose father drinks away his future, your story can still change. I am living proof that pain doesn't have the final word. The crowd clapped slowly, emotionally. Life may bury you, she continued. People may reject you. But if you keep rising, one day, the same mouth that mocked you will sing your name. She turned to James. And to the man who found me beside the stream, not knowing I was drowning on the inside, thank you. For loving the part of me that I didn't even know were still alive. The applause was deafening. That night, after all the guests had gone and the lights were dim, James and Marianne sat quietly on a garden bench. She rested her head on his shoulder. You know, she whispered, I used to talk to the stars, ask them if my mother could still see me. James kissed her forehead. She's smiling tonight, he said. She's proud. We both are. Marianne smiled. And with the stars twinkling above and the sound of crickets singing softly around them, Marianne whispered to the night. From the stream, to the palace. I made it. And in that moment, the past was buried. Forever. Thanks for watching and please don't forget to subscribe and share.